On today's video, I'm back in the California desert with Harry from MineOperator, and we're going to go explore some abandoned gold mines. We're going to check out an old mill and tailings pile and pick through some of the stuff the old miners worked on. And then we're going to go up into the hills, follow some quartz float, find some new quartz veins and some abandoned workings that we're really excited about. We do some detecting underground, find a couple of hits, take them back to Harry's place, crush them up, and see if we can find any gold. These hills were crawling with prospectors back in the late 1800s. Everyone was out here searching for gold. And the problem with searching for gold in the desert is there's no water. So they had to pack all their stuff in with them. But then if you did find something that was worth mining, you still had that water problem, because mining takes a lot of water. Milling takes a lot of water. So even though there's some really rich deposits out here still, there's still a bunch of gold to be found, there's some pretty good mines over on the other side of this hill that were big producers in this district back in the day. And we're walking up this wash, this old trail. We got Harry and Austin with us today.
Howdy.
So in the hills behind me, all the float is really, really rusty. It's turned that brown color you can see there. It's been laying on the surface for a long, long time. And this is what the bedrock looks like unweathered. Quartz monzonite. So you probably had this magma body that was underground. The case bars started to come out of solution, grow these larger crystals you can see. And then it was uplifted quicker or cooled faster. And you got this finer grained intrusive. This is a very common rock that will bring up the precious metals.
And this might be interesting. Out here, there's a lot of, I call it greenstone, but that's a geological term for like where they have gold belts, the green belts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot, like kind of like epidote, and I guess you could probably write a book on all the different types of greenstone that are out there. But out here, we get a lot of this. You'll notice it, and you'll actually get thicker vein type material that shoots through the cracks of some of these rocks. And so now you know you're getting close to where there's maybe some gold deposits.
Oh, cool.
And they're pretty common out here.
And yeah, it looks like you have this joint or fracture that kind of line up in this orientation one after another, and you get this epidote, I guess, deposition in those joints and cracks. So we're on the right track.
We're on the right track.
Gold mines that way. But there's some sort of regional geology going on here that's allowing all these fluids to come up in these same strikes and dips in these veins. A lot of these veins are all striking and dipping the same way.
Found a spoon.
Harry's got his
Found my first piece of metal for the day.
First treasure.
Stainless steel.
Harry found his first rock he likes. What do you got here?
That'll be quartz with the sulfides. So you can see those are most likely limonite cubes.
And so you're thinking this piece of vein quartz?
Yeah, that's quartz. So this would have been like waste rock to them. But if there's gold in the sulfides, wherever this came from, then that's the stuff we're looking for now.
Yeah, awesome. We're on the right track.
Some of the most boring outcrops have led into like massive gold deposits.
Sure.
So like on the surface, we look at them, like they were chasing that, and then like 100 feet down, it's like a bonanza for them, you know, in the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's, and all you need is that conduit. Yeah. Like that's really all the miners were following. It was a conduit for the precious metals and the fluids, whether that's a fault and you're having different rock types touching each other, one on the hanging wall, one on the footwall, or a fault through the same material, or a vein coming into the fault. So that's really what everyone's looking for, is where in the rock could these fluids bring up the precious metals and deposit them in a way that we can mine them.
And if you have a deep pocket to waste on a theory.
Yeah, right. Let's follow this contact, see what happens. Yeah.
There's a old miners trail. There's a good chance they would have been using mules.
Oh yeah.
And there's a couple prospects. So these guys were definitely hardcore. They were going after everything. And so if they cut a path to it, then there's a good chance they're using mules to bring bigger equipment to get after it.
Yeah, or they also would bring down the high grade on the mules' backs, right?
Bring down the high grade to test, and then the stamp mills would do their testing and be like, no, your ore sucks.
Yeah.
Pile of like quarter ounce to half ounce sitting there that wasn't good enough for the mill.
Yeah.
And so you can go up to a lot of these prospects and find, fractions of an ounce right there, but Now you got to backpack down 60 pounds to find out
Yeah.
what they left behind. And if it's there, it's probably because it was low grade. But it's worth swinging the detector on and maybe looking at, you might find a specimen.
There's a fault running right down this valley. Oftentimes that was the case because the faults are the weak spot. So the water starts running down them, eroding the wash right down the fault zone because it was weak. And the miners knew that in these saddles, a lot of times, or in these valleys, there would be a fault or a weak spot. So that was one way they could prospect. And then up here, another little prospect in the shadow of the mountain there. The whole place is covered. I did not see this until I just bent down, but there's some nice vein quartz. More quartz. So we're in the right spot.
I've got a prospect with another buddy, and he was chasing a cloudy hole that had something that looked like this. You get this white, flaky, chalky stuff. I don't know what it is, just altered country rock, but there'll be calcite next to it. If you go down a little deeper, sometimes you get into little limonite pockets, which we've found before. So this boring stuff, as it sits now, might not look too fabulous, but 10, 15 feet down, or even 3 feet down, it can open up into gold, and we've seen that before out here.
Really? So just these little tiny stringers can be worth chasing.
You can run like 5-10 buckets and maybe get 1 gram or 2 grams, but that's pretty rare. Usually you get nothing.
Yeah.
But when someone says the gold can be in the white stuff, you'll find 3, 4, or 5 inch thick of this, and there'll be gold in it.
Really?
Yeah.
So even these little tiny stringers are worth looking at.
Yeah, so we're really confused as to how the gold got here, if it was in place and then secondary alteration, or secondary alteration moved the gold somewhere else. Like, we just don't have any idea how the chemistry worked with the epithermal veins out here.
Sure.
So we're just like struggling to figure out how it's working so we can better identify where the gold is.
Nice. See, you know the big words.
I know some of them.
You know the big geologic words. Harry was teasing me on the ride up that I knew. I sound really good on camera because I know all the big geology words. He knows some geology words too.
This one, that might be like a magazine.
That looks like a little magazine.
That's a lot of work for a magazine.
Red paint all around. A little magazine where they'd hold their explosives in here.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work just to hold your explosives.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming up over the saddle here, getting our first view of the big workings.
And of course it's windy.
Yeah, hopefully you can still hear me. Having flashbacks to our Alaska trip. Wow, that's some serious work over there. Old claim post up on top of that little knob there. That's cool. Is that 80s Harry, or is that 120 years ago?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it could be though,
I found discovery monuments and claim monuments by where my claim is, and they were probably early 20s.
Cool.
Just from the names that were on them.
And there's still wood posts, and yeah.
And they'd literally take just a tin can from sardines, and they'd cut it out and they'd scratch on there or stamp information. Like if they had a stamp set, they would stamp it.
Cool. Back where I'm from, a wood post wouldn't last 10 years. Out here they'll last 150, 200 years probably.
Yeah, easy. And the wood underground would probably last a lot longer than that.
But wood in the desert lasts a long, long time. So we're walking up to our big dump pile here. This is all the waste they brought up and they dumped over the side. And then this lighter pink white pile down here is all the tailings. And they cyanided these, right?
Yep.
This is a big cyanide operation.
20s and 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
And they processed like tens of thousands of tons.
I don't even know what the production numbers are, but it's more than yours and mine.
It's it's a bunch.
It's a bunch.
So there was a huge amount of work done here. The big mill, some point in the past, it's all torn down now. But we're gonna get up on these dump piles, and there's 2 shafts up here, right?
Multiple shafts.
Multiple shafts. What's this? Is this one right here?
First opportunity to look down a hole.
Whoa. Well, yeah, where are all these big nuggets coming from? I want to find one underground. So this mine was shut down in the 30s, you said?
Yeah. I can't remember why it was shut down in the 30s. You would say World War II, but the 30s is a bit off from.
Yeah, right. We're not quite to World War II yet.
This particular area, the main killer was the cost of materials had gone up. So think about the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Everything went up in expense. Gold was, stuck at a low price, and they couldn't afford to mine anymore. And water was a big problem. And if any of the wells went dry, like some of the mines in this area, they were done.
Yeah.
So you're talking like 15, 16 miles of piping water.
Oh.
And some of the mines were able to do it, but once the cost of materials and labor went up, they were gone.
Is this one of the main shafts or no?
I think this is one of the original. Like when they first figured out this place was good, this was probably one of the first main shafts. And you'll see they stoped to the surface in a couple places here. I'm pretty sure this would have been their main haulage for a while.
Okay.
Until they got serious, then they went big.
There's little dog holes everywhere. One over there. There's just, I mean, I can't imagine how many people there were just roaming around the mountains.
There was small tribes of Indians that had been out here before, well documented, but most of it was just dudes coming out here looking for gold.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Here's your open stope.
This is what you were talking about.
Chad and I were talking about this, and what does Jeff say when they open stope to the surface? Start metal detecting below the open stope, because it means the grades were good.
Yeah.
Because why else would you expose yourself to the external environment unless it was really good?
Come all the way to the surface, yeah.
Or someone made a bad decision.
Yeah, an oopsie.
Yeah. If I had to punch a hole into this place, I would find, like, I'd need a map of the place, and I'd strategically find, like, where to drive a drift.
Yeah, from down
Or
there.
Haulage out, yeah, from
down in the wash, yeah.
Haulage out it, and try to intercept, because the shaft work is, now you need a hoist, it's a nightmare.
Shaft work is really hard. Going up and down is terrible. Anytime you can get lower on the topography and come in horizontally, that's way easier. All the shaft mining is terrible work. The valley, we walked down through that valley where that old little pit was I showed you. It looks like this quartz vein is running right up through there, and it looks like there might be there's a dog hole up there. There's something looks like maybe exposed in the wash right there. And it almost looks like there's two different weathering types of rock here. This is less blocky, smaller, and right there, and all this ridge here, see how it's much larger size, more boulders, more outcrops, more resistant to weathering. And this stuff over here is weathered much smaller, finer. So like Harry was talking about earlier, you may have a rock type transition here. To the right is one type of rock, to the left is another type. And what I have seen in the desert especially is the intrusive volcanics will weather like this. These boulders, these clumps of boulders, these little knobs. And then this stuff over here reminds me much more of sedimentary weathering, softer rock. So that's very interesting that this vein is running right up the contact between these two rock types. And it's very apparent right there where you have the volcanics here and the sedimentary stuff here. Very cool. You can actually see it maybe on this ridge in the skyline ridge. That is all volcanics, and this is a different type of rock. I said sedimentary earlier, but I really don't know what it is. I haven't looked at it yet. But it's a different weathering pattern on that side. So very cool. Here's a nice little stockpile somebody was saving. Bunch of quartz, bunch of vein quartz. This is something that, Harry, if you get your truck up here, you just load up all this stuff and bring it back and crush it.
That's right. And when I've done that, I've rarely had good results.
they knew what was good and what wasn't.
Yeah, they already knew.
Yeah. I know, it's so tempting though. All the work's been done for you. They've mined it, brought it up to the surface and piled it. Now you just got to run it through a crusher.
Well, let's say that was 3/4 of an ounce to the ton. You might be able to get a whisper of it with a metal detector. But if it's lower grade than that, it's like not even worth your time.
It's hard, yeah.
And like I know people that have, fractions of an ounce sitting in the dump, and it's just not worth it to run.
Yeah.
It's fun to play with, but it's like think about how hard it would be to get this out of here and then know what the return would be on that.
To make any real money with it, it'd be tough.
So if you can hit it with a detector and it sings, then maybe you got something.
Here we're looking at what used to be the mill site. Very nice rock walls they built here. And these mills oftentimes were designed where they would start at the top, crush with a jaw crusher, stamp mill, down into the cyanide tanks, and then everything would flow by gravity through the mill and then out into the tailings pile. That might be an old cyanide tank right there, who knows?
That's 800 feet.
800 feet deep.
Yeah.
Almost straight down.
Almost. And it did it at a weird angle, and it's not on vein. So this is just for haulage.
They shafted down on it, brought it right up to the mill, and then dumped it down through the crushers.
They had stamp mills.
Stamp mills, yeah, right out into the tailings.
And they did everything. It was from mine to gold bars on site.
They poured bars here.
On site, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the mines out here that had their own cyanide, they were pouring gold bars on site.
Wow. So we're walking out onto the tailings pile. This is all the stuff they milled. So a dump pile is waste rock that they bring up, or low-grade rock they bring up from underground, and they make a pile on the surface. A lot of times you'll see dump piles out of every portal you've ever seen. Tailings is where they've actually milled the rock and recovered the gold. So tailings piles are a little bit more rare. You had to have an actual operating mine where they were processing material, and they look different. So the dump piles, we've all seen them, they're just piles of rock. This is actual tailings. And so this is stuff where they brought the vein up, crushed it down, and recovered the gold. In this situation, it was cyanide, you said? No mercury, just cyanide?
And the cyanide, as old as this dump pile is pretty much inerted by the sun.
Yeah.
But we have cyanide test kits that we can test. So if you were to like put this in water, you can do tests, but there's not detectable.
Yeah, the cyanide left.
Yeah. I'm still not going to take that, as truth. I'm still going to be like careful, but
yeah, you wouldn't eat it, but
don't eat it.
Did you do you have any idea of the amount of gold left in the tailings here?
We grid sampled this and we sent it off for a couple assays, and then we took another sample and we sent it off to figure out what the recovery process should be, but I can't disclose what the grade of this pile is.
Sure.
Out of respect for the owner.
That makes sense.
But yeah, you could probably equate the efficiency of 1930 cyanide leach. And so if you're out prospecting in a place and you find a mine that is not claimed or owned, and you can find any historical documentation, you could probably figure out what the grade of the mine is based upon what the efficiency was. So
gotcha.
If they were getting 1 ounce per ton and then the efficiency was 50 to 60%, then you could probably equate to how much gold should be in the tailings depending on how coarse it was, that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Pacification of the gold when it was getting leached from the cyanide, if it was really coarse gold.
Yeah.
But usually if you get that mine that has just fine gold, they're going to get most of it. But if there's like coarser pieces in there with it, they're going to miss that. And that's kind of where, you might get lucky.
Sure. And so a lot of times you will find these tailings piles and there still is gold in them. A lot of times they didn't get it all. Sometimes they got 50%, sometimes they got 80% recovery. But the question always is okay, there's a resource here. Can you recover enough gold to pay for that new operation? And depending on where you are location-wise, where the nearest mill is, what the price of gold is, there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into that. And because this tailings pile is still sitting here, that tells me that one, they did probably a really good job of getting most of the gold out to start with. And two, the little bit of gold that may be left in here is so far away from a mill, or it's so hard to get to, the road is so bad to repair, there's just not enough resource here to warrant coming out and mining these tailings. That being said, if the price of gold keeps going up, we hit $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 an ounce, that may switch. So the definition of ore is what you can make a profit with, not necessarily how rich the rock is. Oh, another little stope.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I would be super interested in that quartz.
Yeah, because they brought it all the way to the surface.
Yeah.
Now you think this stope connects with that dump over there?
I don't know, but the chances are high.
Yeah,
Especially if you're trying to get ventilation down 800 feet.
Yep, sure.
They said stope up on vein, and they say aye.
Harry was talking about the epidote earlier. Look at how green it is. Showing up here right along the vein. Then another spot where they brought it to the surface. We've hiked quite a bit farther into the, I don't know, what do you call it, desert, countryside, the wash.
This would be considered the Mojave.
Into the Mojave, and we've come up on some more interesting stuff I want to show you. But these guys just worked really, really hard. No ground support, rocks all ravelly and nasty. They were looking for something. We're up on this saddle. There's quartz everywhere. And we just keep going uphill until we find it. A lot of times these saddles will be a spot where you have a fault coming around. Like I talked about earlier, the faults and the ravelly ground is the weak spot where you get erosional features. And so it's a very good possibility you have a fault coming through here, wrapping down. There's quartz, wrapping around this knob here, and the vein, that fault is the conduit, so you might have a vein running right across here. It's actually quite interesting. No one ever did a test pit on here. There's a little bit of quartz, but if I look up the mountain, there's no quartz at all. And as I pan my way down, no quartz, no quartz, no quartz, 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 littered down the mountain right here. So there's probably a quartz vein right here somewhere. There's an outcrop we're looking for out here that Harry says they got some really good assays off back in the day. It should be right over here. And oh, here comes Harry. Harry's excited, he's got his detector. And so if you can find these real high-grade veins out here in the desert, you can detect around them and might find some free gold.
The intel I got, their little button on the map was only, 25 yards off. That's damn good.
That's pretty good, yeah. Well, let's see what they were working on here. I'm over at our high-grade pile, and I broke open some of this rock with the blue on it, and you can see the sulfides right in there. So this is definitely more sulfide heavy, and Harry was saying that may be why the miners didn't develop this further, is because when they found sulfides, they knew they couldn't recover as much as when it's oxidized. And so having these sulfides may have turned them off from this particular prospect. But I'll keep poking around here a little bit, breaking rocks. Harry's down there swinging a detector, looking for signals. And we might just be able to carry some of this stuff out of here and see what we can find. Harry's gonna let the rocks down there. If I find a really interesting rock, I'll bring it to you. Okay. There's another prospect over here I'm gonna go check out. It's not on the same strike as this vein Harry's working with the detector. There it is. The vein right there. Whew. A lot more copper show up here. Look at some of these. Nice looking stuff. Another shaft down 30 feet maybe. Boy, they really tried to make this go. And it's continuous for thousands of feet. I mean, this is a very continuous 2 to 3 foot wide quartz vein running for thousands of feet right over the ridge here, down into the wash where we came from, back down to the other side. So this is what they would get excited about. And they shafted down several places on this one, did some stockpiles, but it looks like it just didn't pay. Now, I'm not sure why they didn't start down the wash and drift in on it horizontal and then stope up. But if they went down there in the bottom of the wash, found the vein, they could drift in underneath all of this stuff, drift 2,000 feet in, look deep underground, see what the vein was doing, and then all their ore would come out right there in the wash, right by the road. So I'm definitely not an expert in Mojave geology, but what I can tell you is, so the Pacific plate was subducting underneath the North American plate, raising up all this magma, bringing in these plutons and batholiths, and with that, and all the fluid and the water, dissolving these minerals and injecting them into the surrounding rock and the country rock. Let me move out of the wind here. And all of the volcanoes and the mountain ranges eroded, and all of that stuff eroded off to expose all this granitic plutons that now, you know, I'm sitting on. And as you eroded all those plutons, you exposed the gold veins and the quartz veins. And that's why so much of California has very, very rich gold veins. It's very similar to the Andes Mountains in South America, where you have all this volcanism happening. But California, you know, that stopped 100 million years ago or something. I don't know, fact check me on that. And so all these volcanoes eroded, all the gold veins eroded, went into the creeks all along Western California. You have all these, this mother lode country where it's very, very rich in gold. And it's the same thing here. As you go to the north, you're getting younger and younger and younger and younger. And then as you get into the Cascades, where I'm mining, it's 100 million years behind in the process. So the volcanoes of the Cascades are still in that subduction zone process. There's a little, maybe more than you bargained for, but that's a little geologic lesson of the West Coast and the gold formation. Well, I came down into the wash, and now I feel a little bit silly, because if you look up the hill, I was standing up there on those prospects, and then they did exactly what I thought they should do. They came down here and they punched in a crosscut. So I'm assuming that goes back underground to intersect the vein. And I'm also assuming that there's probably some pretty interesting workings and stopes back there that they would bring right out here and load their carts with, and it would go right down this little wagon trail right here. So what I need to do is go back, get my hard hat and light, and I'm going in that hole.
Something rattling, it's a rattlesnake.
Okay, good to know.
Go first. Since you're the guest.
Well, let's see.
First 20 feet, the most dangerous for a rattlesnake.
The first 20 feet. Okay, we're watching out for snakes. That's the key, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any snakes.
That's good. We don't want to see any snakes. They have no ability to deal with them today.
It's definitely warmer in here than outside.
Yeah. Well, they might be in the, they're usually go into the cracks, the rocks.
Okay.
And they'll just chill out.
All right.
Until you put your hand on them, then they don't chill out.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that.
I remember one of my buddies went into a place like this, rear end first, and he couldn't hear the rattle, and we couldn't. Like, stop.
Oh, yeah?
And he kept going, like, stop. And he's like, what? I'm like, there's a rattlesnake. And we should have seen him fly out of that hole.
So it looks like the first 15 feet are through talus and loose rock.
Yeah, float. Yeah, there's some float up here.
So there's a couple of loose rocks right here above my shoulder, so don't hit those. Here's the vein right there. Boy, it's nice, Harry. It's not as wide as it is on the surface, but
oh, wow.
You definitely got some veinage here.
Yeah, so this is classic, right? So you're on the surface, you get that boring white fluffy stuff, you chase it down and your quartz vein turns into 2 feet. Those guys must have been really excited at first.
They were definitely working this. No stope yet. Watch out for this wall here.
I can almost stand up here. Maybe these guys were tall like us.
Yeah, I can stand up, so we're doing good there. And then what do we got here? More vein, fractured up vein. Very nice hanging wall on our left. Look at how competent that is. All the way down the drift. Awesome. Oh, but look at this. We got a little powder magazine area.
Nice.
So that was something. That's nice. It's hot in here. I gotta take my coat off.
Yeah, that happens here. It'll be in the 30s outside and you go underground and it's like 70.
So is this getting you excited?
Yeah. But the other thing you have to consider is what's the grade?
Right. Well, if you're going after pockets,
Yeah. Well,
we'll see what happens up here.
we're starting to get the manganese. Like you've seen this in Harry's mine.
Yes, I have.
The manganese
The fans,
in the country rock.
dendrites. Here we got another little. Oh, this was their wood storage. Well, there's a lot of good wood here.
Wow.
They were saving. To do a 10-foot drift like that is a lot of work,
Yeah.
right? You know that.
Yeah.
We know that. You know how much it costs to go buy this at the lumber store? Look at that old growth tight ring stuff. You could make wood floors out of that. All that stuff. Man, I'm jealous. And this is like the crap they reused 3 different times and it ended up here. Yeah, a little bit of copper show. But yeah, I think we've pretty much lost most of our big vein.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Check all those holes first before you approach them.
Holes?
Yeah, any fuck, we're surrounded by holes, but
For snakes?
yeah.
Oh.
I think that's a cave because there's the timbers in it.
Yeah, there's definitely workings past this.
Look at that staining.
And the vein's starting to come back in here now.
It's just so fractured. This is faulty.
What does that say? I don't know. 2 or 311 something.
The circle with a half circle, 2 and 3, 4 ones behind it. 3 and 4 sticks. But just look how fractured this is.
How far do you think we came? We must have come 150, 200 feet.
I'd say around the 200 mark.
Yeah.
I need 2 hands to do this. I'll play with the detector
Okay.
and not bump any rocks. At least
Yeah.
not stand under what I bump.
Here's got a nice little signal right up there in the back.
I know it's not a bullet.
Yeah, it's not.
Although, I wouldn't be surprised, but
No. Well, let's work on it a little bit. Doesn't look great.
that's the target.
Target.
Yep. So hopefully it's actually gold.
Let's
See what we got here. We'll have to take this guy and play with it. But hot rocks can sing too, you know, it might just be a lot of iron that happens. But I tried to ground balance it out. I turned the VSAT on and I couldn't ground balance it out, so maybe there's more. We'll find out.
It's all kind of ravelly and broken up. But the vein is 2.5 feet wide in some spots. Very nice slicks on the one side. Somebody did a heck of a lot of work. And I can also tell you that the ore that they mined while drifting along here went to the mill because it's not outside stockpiled. We were doing something with it. So it probably ran good enough that they were sending it to the mill.
Yeah.
G.E. Kirkpatrick Banning. That's kind of cool. Well, this is definitely a cool mine. Harry's working on detecting the walls right now. But like you said earlier, this is one of the biggest veins he's ever seen in the district.
I'm not going to
So I'm pretty excited that we found it, and we found it together. So this is definitely a target for him in the future. Here comes Harry around the drift back into the crosscut here. We're about to call it a day, but we're going to bring this nice rock we got a signal on back to the mill site, get it broken up, and see if we have some gold inside. I'm really excited. I've never done any underground prospecting with a metal detector, and that sounded like a really, really good signal.
We can see if Harry's full of it. We're gonna get another detector on that hot rock.
It sounded good underground.
Oh, it was singing. No. There's a little bit of a wobble, but yeah.
Here, check this one out.
Interesting, light change on it. That one's too big to fit in my rock saw, dude. It's too big to fit in my rock saw.
You think you could put it in your backpack?
I've done crazier things. Dredge motors are probably way more than that thing, but
Yeah. No, that spot looks pretty good.
You got a signal, or can you get a signal with it, Harry?
let me try.
That one should do it too. This one.
Let's just get rid of the earphones. Oh, to
This
get
whole metal detecting hard rock is new to me.
These two were attached too, because there's that
yeah,
same.
someone cracked that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still in the same mode I was before. Got gold. So I'll have to balance this. If I can't balance it,
It's metal.
it's something. Yeah, I'm trying. It's not letting me balance it. I'm out of balance, buddy. I'm trying to get it to go away, and it's still pushing. So yeah. Let's get some neutral ground.
All right, let's see if we can get this figured out. Walking back in the dark. Got our headlights on. Oh, we've got quite the desert sunset here. I can't wait to see what that rock looks like. There's something good in there, huh?
Look what we're doing to this poor rock. We got a metal detector on it. We're shooting it with the extra F and putting radiation into it. We're like, there's got to be gold in that rock.
So Harry, explain what an XRF is.
X-ray fluorescence shoots radiation energy into this rock, and in return you get a mineral content of what it's scanning on the surface.
So you get a readout of all the
So right now I'm in
elements in it.
So there's a couple geo modes. I'm in what's called precious metals mode, and the precious metals mode is only looking for surface metals. But if I switch it to like soils mode, then it'll start to tell me what the base metals are of the makeup of this thing.
Okay.
But all we care about is gold right now. So like we could probably scan this rock all day and not find it. But if we cut this open, then there's visible gold, then you're in there.
Yeah. Well, if there's a target big enough to detect, you shouldn't need to super crush it fine, right?
Right. Yeah, it should break free. We'll find out.
Get the whacker machine.
Yeah. This is the human stamp mill.
Oh, I see. A steel box and a breaker bar.
It kind of looks like the shoe of a.
Yeah. I think that's gonna work great. I'll watch you.
Well, we got pyrites. What do we got there? Gotta get a loop out. I actually remembered my loop today.
This could be Harry's life-changing rock here.
I hope so. No, it's just limonites.
It sure looks good.
Yeah.
All right, here, I'll let you. This is your rock. This is your show.
You pulled it out with a oak barrel stave.
Yeah.
I should have taken that. That was sick.
I was scaling with a stick the other day.
Yeah, I think that's the only time I've seen oak out here before.
Hmm.
And the question is it French oak or is it American oak?
So it's leaning towards the non-ferrous.
Yeah. Well, that's a good sign. So this is the half that we think it's in still.
I believe so.
It's right in here.
Still in that big piece, I think.
Should we get your other pieces, Harry? Oh, he's getting all. He's just ready to crush. He just wants to crush stuff.
There's some copper staining in there. There's a couple limonite bugs. And then there's a big chunk of sulfide, which is probably what the detector was hitting. And it looks like that this right here is most likely, there we go, is most likely going to be hematite. So I'm going to put the XRF on that. Yeah, so that's definitely iron. See this yellow stuff? It's limonite.
Mm. Awesome. So, do you have any clue on how big that piece could be? Like just by the signal, is that like a 1 gram, 5 gram?
No, it's probably a lot smaller than that. This thing will pick up like less than 1/10 of a gram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like flour gold type stuff. So
Okay.
it could be super small.
Orbital.
I got a little pinpointer. You know.
You just can't wait to throw it in the orbital. Okay,
Yeah.
throw it in the orbital. I don't
Crush
know.
it.
It's not my rock. You crush it up. And then when you see that 3 gram flattened nugget in there, okay, do it. That thing works good. What'd you call that? An orbital? Orbital?
Yeah, it's an orbital. It's gold belt, and it's called the Alessi puller.
That's a slick little machine.
You know what? I'll pull it up.
A lot of people are asking me about small little crushers like that. That works pretty darn good. All right, we'll get this pan down and I'll show you the results.
So I had that thing set to 1/8 inch. So this is all the oversize. That will obviously need to get crushed further. All right, if there's any 3 mil in this, we'll find out. Sulfide City. That's what the detector was getting, is the sulfides. I have 1 speck of gold, and that's too small for a detector.
Yeah.
So either the gold is with the sulfides, or something else going on.
Nothing in the
So
oversize.
it was the hematite and pyrite mixed together.
Nada.
This means we need a bigger sample.
You need a bigger sample. That stuff still wasn't, I mean, to me it still looked good.
Yeah.
That could assay still pretty high.
Well, the other thing is, it's a good chance the gold's in the sulfides, like in a high density, which happens